We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity. Ooh, this is the friendship. It's a good one too, for sure. You want to go and participate in that one. But this is Top Gun Sales Boot Camp Training, and let's dive in and let's start off with you, Luke.
So I'm an expressive, like I'm just going to want to get things done and move on to the next one. How do I determine when to go for the close?
So, if you have the system, here you have you gotten over to me yet your questions, your level one, two, three, and four questions?
No.
And do you remember me asking for that?
Yes.
So this is at least the second time I've asked for it, if not far more. When I was your age, how many times did I get asked to do something?
None.
None or one. Twice. There was once I had to be asked, but I'm trying to get out in front. I try to get out in front. I just think that's what I don't know, smart, proficient, hardworking people do is doing that. And so the driver personality, they will tend to go ahead and do better at that. So they're going to look at the future. They're going to look at the future and they're going to go and say, what does the customer want ahead of time? And so, what does the customer want ahead of time, looking into the future? And so, what does the prospect want? And so, if you have the system and you follow the system, you can still deviate from the system, but you have a system to say, I need to do this, 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 and this. And if I do these things, then you're going to be more likely to do it right. Questions?
Okay. No, that makes sense.
And so often what you do is you go ahead and flip it back to pre-sales if you're not going to get it. So in an ideal world in a company, you want your salespeople, they're just killing machines. They just go out and close, 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 close. So the expressive and the driver tend to be better at this. The analytic and amiable tend to do better in pre-sales. The challenge with the amiable and the analytic is the analytic will tend to go ahead and over explain things way too much, give too much they talk themselves out of a sale. The amiable will go ahead and develop often too close of a relationship, a friendship. And so they don't close. So these two don't close fast enough. These two will close too quickly. But you want to go ahead and make sure, like I shared with you guys, Tom Coons, and how, he had an outside research firm, and like, I don't know, like 70% of the leads that the salesperson said were not good leads were good leads. So, you guys don't have somebody in pre-sales yet. And so my guess is those leads, once the salesperson typically drops a lead, that lead just gets dropped. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
So, you guys could either bring somebody on just for that, or you could go ahead and, contract to delegate, systematize contract out, hire someone or partner with someone. You might go ahead and get some of your guys to go ahead and during, they get off at whatever time they get off. So, or on a Saturday or something else, you could train and say, hey, do you want to go ahead and earn some extra money and give them the commission if they go ahead and get a lead that you didn't follow through on. So you dish it off to them. What will that immediately to do to you, Luke, in sales?
Get me to follow through.
Better. And when you lose a commission to a fellow team member, when you lose a commission to a fellow team member, why is that so exciting? Because it's a fellow team member. It's not the competition. It's the fellow team member. and they're going to love to do it, and you're going to learn a lot of lessons. So you have systems in place, and so you letting that one go to somebody else might have freed up your time and energy and focus to go ahead and go out and get three more sales. So you really didn't lose the commission. You actually got more commissions because you're focused on closing the sale really quick. Anything else, Luke, you got?
Nope, I don't think so.
Penny, what you got?
Um, so like if how do you separate the personal, like whatever happens in your personal life, relationships, whatever, from keep how to keep that from affecting you, performance mentally at work, physically, whatever. Kind of separate the two.
Um, so getting married and having kids helps to do that. One is because you get to do it every day, 24/7. Like you just get like you just have to perform, or somebody's not going to eat. Like your kids, when your kids aren't eating, when your kids aren't eating, um, you know, then you have to do it. So a lot of it's mental toughness. It's just getting in the zone. It's just getting in the zone, and you're just a machine. You're just like, this is just so the more you practice that, like it's interesting in personalities. If you ask somebody, who's better at dealing with conflict, and a lot of times people will say the amiable. No, the driver is the one that's the best at dealing with conflict. The amiable is the best at avoiding conflict, not dealing with it. They avoid it. They do everything they can to avoid conflict. So they suck at conflict. They just do. Let's be honest, because they avoid it all the time. The driver tends to be more honest and direct with people. So they're going to be more honest and they're going to be more direct with people. So they're going to have more opportunities to deal with conflict. And so they're just typically a lot better at it. And so, the same thing is true. It's the opposite. It's counterintuitive coaching, which is the highest form of coaching. And where you do the opposite of what you think. So what you need more of those type of things. You time block, you go ahead and this is what needs to be done. It's like being, on the battlefield. Like it's like being in a war. So you visualize being in a war and your closest friend is right next to you and gets shot, dies right next to you. What do?
You go on fighting.
You go on fighting. Why?
You're gonna die if you don't.
You're going to die. Somebody else is going to die around you. People are dependent on it. You'll mourn later. This is where Alvin, just genius, so, his wife, and do women tend to be this way? Probably, and so, he and his wife were having an issue in their marriage, and he would go ahead and go to work, and, and and it would bother her all day. He'd come home and he'd address it. He's a smart man. So she's like, I don't understand how you can work when this thing is hanging over her head or something like that. I don't know exactly. Didn't talk to her or talk to him, but this is what the impression was based on my own marriage. And so it's like how can you work when we have this issue that we're working through? And he says, well, honey, you know how there's that creek with that little that creek that I walked to work. So he walked to work, he went over the creek, and he said, what I did is I set down our problems at the side of the creek, and then I'd go to work and then I wouldn't think about them. And then when I came home, I'd pick up those problems, come back, and then he would address it. A lot of men, what they do is they go ahead and don't pick it up. They leave it at the creek. They come home and they act as if nothing happened. That's not going to work out well for her. And so, or maybe it's the amiable. Like my wife and I would be one that, like if I'm working, I'm in the zone. But he owns the lumber yard. You don't want your husband thinking about problems. He could die. He could get his arms sawed off. You want him doing what he's focused on doing. So it's discipline of the mind, but you go ahead and say, hey, so in marriage and relationships and family and everything. So I'm one that tends to like to kill stuff fast in arguments. I just want to kill it. Just get it done. Let's battle it out, fight it through, take the bruises, that's whatever we need to, and then just go on. My wife, she tends to want to avoid conflict because she's an amiable, you know, and so when we got married, I had to learn, okay, you don't have to address it this second. Like, fine, this second, we don't have to do it right now. Maybe she needs a little time to process it or whatever. The challenge is maybe sometimes she would take a day. Well, by the time the day's done, if she's taking a day, I'm on to the next thing. And you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I'm just done. I'm just on with the next thing. Well, she doesn't like that. So we had to, and you might say, well, so how long did it take you to figure that out? Well, we haven't yet. Like, it's 41 years. We still haven't. I was feeling bad about that, but I asked Alvin Miller, who's been married over 60 years, like, do you ever have issues in your marriage that, you think this is so stupid, we should have solved this? He started laughing and he said, oh yeah, that's never going to end. I'm like, really? Like, really? and he's like, yeah. And so I don't know. I'm not sure I buy into that, but I mean, I think there should be some stuff. So I don't know. It's just, but you got to get on the same page with your mom or dad or brother or sister or who you're dating or your kids or wife or whatever, whoever is that relationship, and applies to everything. Obviously a spouse is going to be, the most important, but the same thing can be with the kids too. Other questions, Kenny?
So ideally, you would communicate with them beforehand, so they're aware of that, so they just don't feel like, well, you just ignored me all day.
Yeah. You get an agreement. This is what we're going to agree to, and so I think the amiable is a tricky one. They're a little bit of a shifty character. So I think the amiable uses silence to punish people. And so my wife, she says, I'm punishing her. I'm like, no, I don't think that's what it is. And you come up with an agreement. Here's the agreement. This is what we're going to agree to do. So you do it ideally when there's not an argument or whatever. And you go ahead and you say, okay, this is ideally what we're going to do. And then you do it and you compromise. Like, I want to deal with stuff immediately. Right this second, I want it solved so I can go on. Well, how long does she want? Well, she doesn't know. Well, make up a number, sweetheart. Like, how long we'll talk about it tonight. Okay, then we talk about it tonight. So then I can get focused in on the day, and we're going to talk about it tonight. And maybe if it needs to be moved, it needs to be moved. But so you negotiate the relationships and what's going on and that kind of stuff. Yipper. Yep.
Got it.
Anything else you got, Kenny?
I do not.
Okay, so what we have on today, we have a wonderful guest on, and Adam, good to have you on. Adam's is a computer programmer with Life Masteries Institute, owns his own VA company, and so good. He'll be joining us, maybe once a week. So what he's doing is he's doing the AI Life GPS, and so this is really cool. Really excited about this. And so with Dreamscape, you need to go ahead and in selling, you need to get the person's personality in pre-sales and the sale. And the reason you're getting that person's personality is because it's to service them. So it's to communicate to them so we can listen better. We can communicate better. And if you do decide to go with us, we can service you better. And it's fun. It only takes 17 seconds. So which of these 4 shapes would you tend to like the most? You got to get this in here. You get this in here, you get this in here and you're going to go ahead and sell a lot more. You can increase your, I think I saw you guys' sales closing ratio maybe at 53%. I was looking this morning at it and knowing your numbers and stuff. And so you could literally, if you're at 50%, if you can close two more, you'll increase your sales closing ratio by 40%. 40% more sales, potentially increasing your profit by 100%. It's pretty crazy. And so you need to get the personality. Now, also your servicing needs to have it. You guys have had, you can see patterns, but there's a lot of patterns, so it's hard to identify. So you guys have had issues with, with clients saying, hey, your crew didn't go ahead and they weren't friendly with us. So if you're working at my house, like, I just want the work done. I'm a driver, analytic. You don't have to talk to me. You just get the work done. But my wife, she's an amiable, so she's going to want, well, you need to know that to service us. And so the servicing experience will be better. So what you guys want to do is work with Adam here, where you'll have your own group for customers. You'll have it, or for prospects or customers, and you go ahead and get it in there. And then, then there's a report. Now, this report gives, like, this is going to be like Tom Kuntz in the Rings of Influence. This is going to service the client. It's for the most benefit is going to be the client. And so that's why you're doing it. So you have to tell them, that's why you're doing it. And so in the Rings of Influence here, they've got a whole bunch of stuff. So you'd come up with a report with Adam that would go to your client. And they would be like, whoa, that's really cool. That's really neat. That's really, really cool. And then you'd have a report that would go to your team that would go ahead and help your team go ahead and understand their personality so they can service them at a better level. And then it gets into the cluster principle where, oh yeah, you can go ahead and give people this QR code or this link or whatever, and you can give them this link, family member, friends. Yeah, and it's really fun to do. We've done it for our family. Like Nora did it for hers, family over Christmas, and they had one of the best Christmas ever. I mean, people laughed and people were like, wow, that was really interesting. It's really fun. And it was a great Christmas. Well, why not have that experience for all your customers? And Nora, she's a customer, and so you guys can use her story. You can use her story. Yeah, one of our customers, one of our referral partners or whatever you want to say. I don't care. I don't think she cares. So you go ahead and say, yeah, one of our referral partners, one of our customers went ahead and said that they did it for their family, and it was the best Christmas ever. And this family had 10 kids, and so it's complicated, right? Like, for people, relationships is complicated. And so, if you guys want to do this and you could give them something, it could be in the booklet that you do. Like, it could explain it. Like, that's in the booklet, it could explain it. So if you're not real good at explaining it, it could do it. Just read that. Like, look at that. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. I've never heard a company like, yeah, there's so much that happens in relationships, in family there. So Adam, excited to have you working with Dreamscape on this, and Nora and others in the Top Gun training, because I believe that Life GPS is going to be one of the most powerful tools that Top Gun will have. Kenny or Adam, any other questions either of you have?
Not at the moment.
Sorry, Kenny, go ahead. You good?
Yeah, I do not have any other questions now.
All right. So if you're listening to the report past this, you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the US 630-393-9909. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever can on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.